The National Hockey League was established in 1917 as the successor to the National Hockey Association. During the 1920s, the NHL embarked on a rapid expansion, adding the Boston Bruins, the first American team to join the league. For the 1942-43 season, the NHL was reduced to 6 teams: the Boston Bruins, Chicago Blackhawks, Detroit Red Wings, Montreal Canadiens, New York Rangers, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. These teams would form the original 6, the most notable teams in the history of the NHL.
During this time period, players used handmade heavy wooden hockey sticks, which made it difficult to generate power on a shot. This was until 1937, when the New York Rangers player Alex Shabicki was the first player to use the slapshot technique. A slapshot is a forceful and accurate shot that involves striking the puck with great force using the full swing of the stick. When executed properly, a slapshot can result in a high-velocity shot that is difficult for goaltenders to stop because of its unpredictability.
However, for inexperienced players, a slapshot can be a difficult technique to pull off properly. For this demonstration, we will be using the second all-time leading goal scorer, Alexander Ovechkin, as our expert, and for our rookie, we will be using Shaun. The slapshot consists of the 4 stages of movement: the preliminary movements, the force production, the critical instant, and the follow-through/recovery.
Preliminary movements are the movements that prepare the hockey player for the performance of the slapshot. The force production will be the synchronized movement of the skeletal and muscular systems to produce the required force required for the slapshot.
Next is the critical instant, the moment where contact is lost with the puck. And then finally, the follow-through/recovery phase. These are the movements that the hockey player performs after the completion of the slapshot. It is important for the accuracy of the movement and for injury prevention, since muscles are used to slow the movement down in a slow, controlled manner.
First, let's see how Ovechkin and I compare in the preparation phase. Even before Ovechkin initiates any movement on his limbs, he utilizes Principle 4 of Biomechanics, the impulse momentum principle. Notice how my puck begins at rest, whereas Ovechkin's puck is moving towards him.
Newton's first law states that every object will remain at rest or in uniform motion in a straight line unless compelled to change its state by the action of an external force. However, as the velocity of the object increases, the greater momentum it has. In order to slow or stop the object, a greater impulse is required.
Ovechkin sets up for a slapshot while receiving a pass from his teammate. This is known as a one-timer slapshot. Since the puck is moving, it has great momentum, so Ovechkin must exert significantly more impulse in the force production phase, resulting in a high-velocity shot. Because I am shooting the puck at rest, I am automatically at a disadvantage.
Not only does Ovechkin implement the impulse momentum principle, but he also is able to increase his stability. The first principle of biomechanics, stability, states that once stability increases with an increase of mass, even distribution of mass, a larger base of support, and a center of gravity nearing the base of support. Ovechkin widens his stance to increase the area of his base. He also bends his knees to lower his center of gravity. These actions make him more stable.
On the other hand, I fail to widen my stance and do not bend my knees. This significantly decreases my overall stability.
Next, let's see how Shaun can improve in the force production phase. The extension of Ovechkin's back leg, or the leg farthest to the net, in conjunction with trunk rotation along the longitudinal axis produces an eccentric torque, or an off-center force to the body that allows rotation.
By rotating towards the net, Ovechkin can increase the swing speed of his stick, increasing the velocity of his slapshot. While I produce an eccentric force, it is not very powerful since my knee joints are not flexed.
Ovechkin sets up his bottom arm in a position to use the joints of the shoulder, elbow, and wrist. This allows Ovechkin to produce maximum force. Shaun instead keeps his bottom elbow extended as he swings and fails to engage all the joints and muscles on his left arm.
On top of that, Ovechkin transfers his weight to his front foot, which is his foot closest to the net, in order of his hip joint, knee joint, and then ankle joint. He then uses his upper body joints in the order of the shoulder, elbow, and wrist. This allows his stick to move with the greatest velocity.
The critical instant is the phase where we can really see a difference because this is the phase where we can observe the power of a shot. During this phase, a player can generate power by pivoting towards the net and by producing flex on the stick.
Principle 7 states that as more mass is pulled closer to the center of gravity, Ovechkin's moment of inertia decreases. Ovechkin brings his arms closer to his body, which allows him to rotate faster along the longitudinal axis.
Shaun also implements this principle, shown by the rotation of his shoulders, but where Shaun and Ovechkin really contrast can be explained using Principle 5 of Biomechanics, direction of applied force. Ovechkin pushes down with great force on his stick, creating a Type 3 lever. Newton's third law states that for every action or force, there is an equal and opposite reaction or force. In this case, the opposite reaction is the ice pushing against the blade of Ovechkin's stick.
Ovechkin produces such great force that the stick bends. The force produced by Ovechkin is transferred directly into the stick and creates a slingshot effect once the puck is released. This grants the puck a surplus of velocity. I am unable to produce such a force into the ground. My stick is unable to flex and my energy is lost to the ground.
Now, let's observe the recovery phase. As Ovechkin follows through with his shot, his arms are far away from his center of mass. Principle 7 states that as more mass is pulled away from the center of gravity, the moment of inertia increases. This slows Ovechkin's rotation speed along the longitudinal axis.
But I also implement Principle 7 in my follow-through. However, I feel unstable while Ovechkin looks secure. Why is this?
This is because you're forgetting Principle 1 of Biomechanics, stability. Once the slapshot is complete, Ovechkin remains low to the ice. To reiterate, one's stability increases when their center of gravity is lowered. In order to remain upright, Ovechkin will often finish a slapshot in a lunge position, and sometimes even in a kneeling position.
On the other hand, I follow through my slapshot rather upright. My center of gravity is significantly higher than it should be because I don't bend my knees, and my arms finish higher than they should. This position raises my center of gravity, which makes me unstable. Upon analyzing two very different slapshot techniques, it becomes clear that a player like Ovechkin has a much better understanding of the 7 biomechanical principles and uses them to improve his game. Ovechkin is able to generate immense power on his shot, use a much better form, and remain much more stable when compared to myself.